Hello, everyone. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. This is Taryn Blake. I am the Community Engagement Manager for our PLM community. Glad to see everyone here. We are online for another live session of Community Conversations, our Technomatics virtual user group. And we will be talking about simulating into websites using PHP. So, as many of you might be familiar, our speaker for today is Mr. Stefan Bongso, who has been a freelance simulation expert for quite some time. He has hundreds of projects and training sessions under his belt, and he has published 5 books on plant simulation. We're just talking about his 6th book that should be coming out next year. And we definitely appreciate his contributions to our Siemens PLM community. So before we get started, just a reminder, we will be removing all personal note-taking apps from the chat, but this recording will be available for everyone and posted in the community forums on Friday. So don't worry, the recording will be made available to you, but just for compliance reasons, we will be removing any additional note-taking. If you do need translation, I should call out on Microsoft Teams, there are 3 dots, 3 at the bottom of your screen. You can turn on translation and different things like that. So definitely use your menu. Also, we will have everyone on mute during the presentation, but afterwards we'd love to do a live Q&A. You can raise your hand, you can come off of mute to ask your questions. So when Stefan gets done, we will definitely have time for all of that. So the basic steps for today, Stefan's going to go through a basic scenario. He's going to show the kind of the .com access in PHP, configure and start a simulation, and then he'll display results for us. So again, we'll have the live Q&A. Stefan will give this presentation live, and then you can raise a hand, come off mute. We'd love to hear your voice for the Q&A. So that is all for our introduction today. I'll give this over to Stefan.
Hello again to our next webinar. I have today to change between a lot of applications, so maybe it's a little bit more complicated for me. I start with 3 slides. Okay, PHP Plant Simulation Web Application. Okay, what I want to show is how to run a plant simulation from a backend of a web page. We had already one webinar for this topic with Python, and this one is for PHP. We have here 3 elements. We have the front end, basic HTML file, and a backend, and in this case, a PHP file. And we have plant simulation. Yes, why PHP? We are in a Windows world, and if you have to select a server, a HTTP server, then you have a limited selection. You have the Internet Information Services from Microsoft as one of the, if you have installed already the server from Microsoft, then normally you get also, you will be able to install the Internet Information Services. And there is PHP one of the pre-installed integrated programming languages. The same is for Apache. Apache PHP since decades is PHP here the main integrated programming language. And so, yes, it's old language. It's like HTML. It's decades development behind, but it's still in use and it's quite fast. You have now support for object-oriented programming, and it will keep alive, I guess, for the next decades. And also it's old. It's not means it's bad here. Okay, it's not hyped like Python, but we have one big advantage here in Windows. The COM interface is already included in the basic PHP installations. We don't need to add some modules to PHP. And so it's the basic architecture. We have a front end, we have a back end, and we communicate directly from the back end with Technomatic's plan simulation. Okay, what I want to do is I have a very, very basic simulation here. I have a source, 2 stations, nothing in between, and I want to set the proc time of the station 1 and station 2 and run a simulation for a certain time. I need to specify this here in the event controller. I have an end of 1 hour, and then I want to display the results in a web page. And so this simulation is located on my HTTP server. And I have I need to set a variable for the operating system that plan simulation finds the license server. But that's all. Basically, we have 2 ways to run a plan simulation here. We can run simulation from the command line without any as a headless headless application, but then it's really hard to hand over parameters. It's not impossible. You can do this. And the second one is we can use the COM interface and access to plan simulation, and there we have a lot of different ways to control, to set parameters, to start, for instance, SimTalk commands, and we can start and wait for the experiments. Okay, this is my very simple model, and now we start with the first one. We need a front end, and so I close this. Okay, this should be the front end. I don't want to develop it here live, so I copy it. HTML file, nothing special. Okay. HTML file, I have a form here, method is post, and form action is start sim data PHP. This is the PHP file we have to create. I have 2 input fields. One ID or name is proc time 1, and one ID is proc time 2, and I have a submit button, and this is finally this formula. Yes, you can do it much more complex. You can create a complete dashboard here with all the data you want to insert for each experiment. And then we start with the PHP file. Okay, PHP. It's this file contains of programming and HTML code. the HTML code is sending directly to the output stream by the server, and the PHP part is will be first executed as a program, and so the file is containing partly of programming and plain HTML code. And for instance, in the first step, I want to read the data from the formula, and I need to start with a PHP part of this file. And so we need to mark the PHP parts of this file, and I do this with $PHP inside a tag, and here starts the PHP part. So I read the data from the form. It's very easy here in PHP. I want to have a variable input1. With $_post, I can access the data from the input stream from the server here, and I need to specify the names of here my formula fields. First one is proctime1, and the same input2 and proctime2. The result is string. I want to create this as an integer, and so I need to cast here to change the data into integer. And so the semicolon at the end. Okay, and then I can start a basic HTML file. Very basic HTML. I don't want to have a head here, and I need to specify the body. And I close the tags. And I start a new PHP block. Okay. I need a COM connection to plan simulation, and in PHP, it's I need a variable for the return value, and this is new and COM, and I need a tag for the COM connection, and in my case, I have some problems with my new license file, and so it's 22.0.1. The COM tag is here: Technomatics, plan simulation, remote control, and then the main release number and the sub release number. If it's fail, I can display error message. It's okay. You can place this in HTML tags. And so it's inside of the body. Otherwise, you need to look into the into the source code to see your error messages. Okay, and the semicolon. In this way, I can establish a COM connection to plan simulation. And next step is to load a model. Yes, without trust model doesn't work for me at least. And the command for load a model is load model. Minus greater than, this is the operator for accessing attributes and methods of a class in PHP. Load model, and I need to specify the address of my model at the server. This is it's quite difficult. You need to set the right rights at the server that plan simulation can access this file. And so you need to be carefully, you need to grant access to this file at the web server. Normally you cannot. You have some secured areas at the web servers where you can place these files. My file is here in the root of the of the web server. It's not the right place normally. Okay, load model. You don't have any graphical user interface. Then if you make this in this way, now I can set all the attributes you need to set for the experiment run. And this runs with the model with the method set value. You need to specify the complete path of the value you want to set. In my case, it's point models, point model, point station 1, point proc time. This is the complete path to the attribute I want to change. And next, I need to specify the value I want to set, and this is input 1. And the same, I want to make for input 2. Oh. Station 2, proc time, input 2. And then I can start the simulation. And this you can do with $PS. Start simulation, and you need to specify the event controller. The same with the complete path. And then we need to wait for results. I make it here in a right brutal way. We can let open this page and wait inside this program, for instance, with a while loop. Is simulation running? Is simulation running? Returns if the simulation is still running. And then I can wait, for instance, for 1 second and keep waiting in this place here. And then I can read and display the results. Okay, a little more. HTML. one variable for the result. With get value, you can read values from the simulation, like set value, you can set one, and you need to specify in the same way the path to the attribute you want to read. And I want to have from train okay as text. Oh. And this I write into the output stream between the div and somewhere I need the end of div here. So, and now I need to close my model and close blend simulation. And that's it. Okay. Now I can test it here in the browser. So my simulation data, I want to have 25 seconds for station 1 and 50 seconds for station 2. I submit this to my PHP file, and the simulation is running in the background, and this is the result was 71. And blend simulation is in the background, and this is the reason why many want to make such web applications. You can make blend simulation for more people accessible when you hide all the complexity of the model and blend simulation all from the users. And if you create a model, you have defined input parameters you want to set, you want to change, and then let it run blend simulation in the background. Then you only need to display all the statistics you want to have. You can create pictures from the diagrams and place the diagrams here. You can also record HTML report in blend simulation itself and save this report on the web page and a link to this report then at the end. So you have many ways to hide blend simulation from the users. And if you have some experiences with web application, then you know, okay, there's some problems in behind. You don't see here blend simulation. And if you have some failure during the development, then plan simulation will keep running in the background. And if you have several instances of plan simulation open, then you cannot open plan simulation anymore. You first need to kill all the instances that's running in the background. And this is unfortunately one of this big problem. If you create web applications, you need to have server access to clean plan simulation. If you have some problems with plan simulation, you don't see it here. And if your program is crashing in between, then plan simulation is running on the server in the background, and there's no user interface showing. It's just the process in the background. One big advantage is it's running much faster than with a graphical user interface. Yes. Okay. So it's not rocket science. You can find all these methods of the COM interface in the help. Yes. Very quick today. Any questions?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Thanks for the run through, Stefan. This is very relevant. We're actually working on a relatively large project that involves dynamically spinning up lots of containers that each run their own instance of plan simulation, that are each running alongside something that we're calling internally like a PlantSim API. And we have like a single client facing website where they can just send messages and they don't have to actually run plan simulation. They send this message. And we're using Python for this, responding COM objects dynamically and managing those messages to those COM objects through a REST API. One of the issues that we have with the Python implementation is that in order for us to be able to open up a debugger and say, okay, this the equivalent of your PS object here, or what we call a remote control object, in order for a debugger like VS Code to be able to see what methods actually exist in this COM object, we need to do early binding, and that's just like a Win32 thing. If we do a regular late binding dispatch, we don't know anything about the object. And when we do that, the Python implementation runs this makepy file. It creates a generated cache file that says, okay, here's the kind of implementation of this COM object. Let's hold this in memory. And it's a little buggy, and it also requires us to go in pretty often and flush that cache and rebuild it, even if nothing about the version of plan simulation has changed. My question, because I don't use PHP, is this default COM implementation in PHP, is this early binding? Meaning, like, if I open this up in a debugger, would my PS object tell me the list of all of the things that it could do? New model, load model, set path, context, whatever. And at the same time, if you have experience doing that, do you end up with needing to manually dump that cache file when you run this a couple times in a row?
Oh, I don't know, but I guess it depends a little bit on the COM interface. It's a DLL file, and so it's you can use the COM interface from many different programming languages, also with real programming languages like C or C++, and so it's. I guess it runs a little bit different in scripting languages like Python. I normally you implement the DLL file, and then you can it's not you can compile it into your own application. This is the fastest way. It's you can do this, but then you need to create a real program.
Yeah, and that's what we're doing with the Python implementation. All it's doing is it's just taking a wrapper around the Win32.com API and saying, okay, run some C code that implements this DLL, and yeah, and but what it's doing then is, in order for us to actually know, us as the user looking at this in, let's say, a debugger, if it opens this object, the equivalent here of that $PS object, if we were to stop this halfway through and to query that in a debugger, in order for us to know that there's actually 15, 20, however many methods are attached to that object, and to be able to see their status, we need to early bind to it. And that requires making a generated file. I'm really just asking is if I did this in PHP, is that implementation, does it clean up its own generated cache files? Have you ever run into an error message that is somewhere along the lines of, the gencache.php, I don't know where it's kept, is runs into some type of error? Because we'll run into that error quite a bit using the Python implementation, and all we do is just manually go in there and force it to clean up that file and rebuild it. But it does involve an extra step in the process, and if PHP was cleaner, we would investigate taking a look at that. But if that's not something you have a quick answer to, that's fine.
But I never had the problem with this. But it's PHP, it's an integrated module in the server here. And so I guess the server cleans up all this stuff if the PHP file is sent.
Right.
And so it's more integrated PHP than Python, which is running complete as an external process for the server.
Right. And the last thing I was going to ask, which is unrelated, but we also implement the events. So we have a COM interface Python object that is both sending, load model, get value, close model, et cetera, but it's also listening for when the simulation is finished through the simulation finished COM event. And that implementation is relatively straightforward. Is that a thing that you can do here with this new COM declaration, or do you need to have like a COM events object that does that?
I really don't know, because okay. Normally if you have a web application, it's not a state behind, but you can create with this handler, you can hand over this to the server and make a new process that is waiting in the background. But a real event handling with a HTTP protocol, I don't think it's possible.
Yeah. Well, it is possible if you're using modern HTTP. It is just it can be obnoxious if you have problems with like your timeout and PlantSim's timeout are not lining up.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
it is possible, but very obnoxious. That's why I was asking if they it's built in here.
Okay. In the background, it works in the background. If you send it to a background process, and then, but then I want, but it doesn't need to be then PHP anymore. It can be a server-side include, for instance, which is waiting with its own process for the result and send then. But it's this is another topic.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you.
Okay. Well, I see one that just came through from Francisco. Are you able to see it, Stefan?
Yes. Where can I read more documentation on this COM interface? It's in the help. You only need to type COM interface, and then you will see all the methods the COM interface provides.
If it's your first session with us, you can click on the link that is there. It will take you to the Plant Simulation virtual user group page in the forums. And then the animation is showing you that we encourage you to follow the topic. And when you follow the topic, to click on the envelope icon and select every post. The only thing posted in that portion of the forums are invites to the sessions, so registration links, and recordings of these sessions. So you can always mention Stefan or Alex or any of our experts. We've got some Siemens folks too there in that area, and they can answer questions that you may have had around these conversations. So also our next 2 meetings, you can click on the screen there too if either of those topics interest you. We'll be back in 2 weeks with Stefan for how to model a 2-arm robot, and then on November 12th for various pull control methods. So registration is open for both of those. You can click through to get there. And also, while you're thinking of questions, and I have a captive audience, our team for the Siemens Accelerator Academy wanted to make everyone aware of some of the courses that they have there. So again, that link is clickable if you just wanted to get over to that webpage and see what sort of comprehensive courses are available on plant simulation topics. There's also a plant simulation associate certificate, if that's something that might be useful for you. So that coursework is available. And I'm shocked at how quiet this audience is today. We do have a couple more moments for you, but that's this screen has a link to Stefan's profile in the community forums there, where you see the @mention, and that link is once again to the forums for the Plant Simulation Virtual User Group.
Thank you so much to having you here, and yes, and keep informed for the next coming webinars.
And someone asked, will it be Python? Stefan, I know you did at least one, right? About Python?
Already 2, yes.
2, okay, yes.
I will make another one for Python and create Gantt diagrams with Python. But
Nice.
Not this year. We have already a schedule for the complete year. And so next year will be more Python stuff.
Yes, but definitely check the forum so you can click there, the link, and the recordings are there for Python. So other than that, everyone, we really thank you for coming today. Stefan, thanks once again for providing more information about methods to work with PlantSim.
Okay, goodbye.
Yeah. Bye, everyone. See you in 2 weeks.